afternoon. This is Pastor Tom Mullins. I'm the pastor of Devotional. I'm serving that ministry at Devotional, United Methodist Churches. I used to be the pastor at Marshall. It is Thursday. It is October the 12th, and I'm here in my office today. I had to take my truck in. And last year, for almost a year, I didn't drive very much, and found out on a doctor's visit that from Mountain Home to Marshall and back, probably in the 40s, 30s or 40s, was an extremely cool ride due to some heating problems with the truck. She's a 2012 Nissan Titan. She's paid off, but she's fire engine red, and you may have seen my truck if you know me or been around. I'm very proud of it, and it's done a very good job for me and all those types of things. Nissan that Kim drives, so not a truck. Hers is an SUV. It's a Nissan Murano, but we are very pleased with both of those Nissan products. There's no Dodge in there, a Chrysler product over the years, and I've had friends that are really worked on cars and different things that were really pro. I have a Lloyd Toby, who's Burgess son, and he was big in small engine repair, did a lot of that kind of work, but absolutely loved Dodge and Hemi. It was these types of cars that you'd see like the Dodge Charger, the Challenger. I don't know what all they were some bigger cars, but they were powerful cars. They had a lot of cool things going with them. I had a couple of the big Fords. My bride, my wife, had a new Mercury Cougar, and I had at the time, and a really nice car that she had, and a Cadillac of sorts back in the day, and it was a good car. It was just extremely big, but it fit me. I'm 6'5", and back then probably about 200, 225 pounds, something that made it. My stepdad, he did not like the car at all, but he was a man of short stature, probably about 5'4", somewhere around 5'4", 5'6". And it was like he's like peeking over the dash to see and different stuff like that. I've been over 6 foot tall, I guess, since probably the 7th, 8th grade, somewhere around there. So that kind of stuff. When I was in the 4th grade, so I was over 5 foot tall in the 4th grade. So he and I were about the same size, I guess, at that time, as far as height and weight. But anyway, I'm here at the house at the parsonage, hoping to get a little bit of paperwork done and different things that are going on. Had a very successful and I got a referral to go to the Board of Ordained Ministry, which is the annual conference, and that's the council, I guess, if you want to call it that, or the committees that are being a provisional elder and being full membership in the annual conference, which probably doesn't mean a whole lot to many of you, but the fact is it's kind of a provincialized, I guess. But what it is the annual conference is the one that confers membership in the annual conference, and then it also so they're kind of archaic in the way that so like different authority comes from the chain of, I guess, the chain of command or whatever say, or the balance. I guess it's more of a balance than a chain. One of those things that
as the church happens you.
to be to go for being an ordained elder and in full connection and membership and stuff, they recommend you, and then after you go through the process,
The teacher can be an ordained ministry.
during ministry, if you get a good recommendation from them, then the annual conference uh, decides that you're a provisional elder. It used to be called a probationary elder.
And then from that step, you go on to the next step.
I don't know what you would call it, vetting or however you want to say. But then you do that, and then I know this is really boring, but then it's a process.
That I'm going through having the
Graduated from licensed to preach school in for part-time preachers at the retreat there in
It's in Shirley, Arkansas.
it's our United Methodist Retreat Center there. A beautiful place. My last appointment was just up the highway at Leslie and Marshall, and the Boston Mountains are just the Ozark Mountains, but it's like just the beauty of looking out over the foggy morning and you know, and seeing all of that, and just part of the reason that we are called the natural state is that the water comes down off of the mountains and down alongside the road and through the rocks and different things.
It's just a beautiful place.
In school in April of 2007, I was appointed as a lay supply preacher, which means pretty much uncredentialed, just one of those, you know,
Kind of a lay servant.
I'd been there for a few months. Well, from June, the end of June till the end of April, as a pastor, a lay pastor, I guess is what you call it.
It's not really official term.
Went to course of study classes, began that process, decided to go, when I needed to go and have a 4-year degree. So at 40 years old, and did that, and I just
Kind of want you to know
I went through 9 years of higher education, and the whole purpose of going to college at Arkansas Tech University in Russellville, the whole purpose of that was
my goal. I was asked several times,
my career, and I was like, I'm already involved in my career. I just want to be better at it. I want to be able to be a better preacher, better pastoral caregiver.
to be able to do that.
I'm not a clinical psychologist. And then as my minor for my undergraduate degree, I love archaeology. I love
Anthropology.
archaeology, studying past civilizations. I'm not. I'm more of the southeast and the southwest, or the Mississippian Indian,
Mississippi.
and different things of North America. You know, into actually into South America too as well, but for primarily would be the southeast and the southwest United States. The things that are involved with studying cultures and different things from the past, and I do love Middle East, those kind of cultures and history and different things are universal. You know, like the bow and arrow, or the spear, or the attle, and there's different types of things. Some of them were made for hunting, and maybe, you know,
It's hard to imagine
Paleo Indians who were actually in battle with mastodons and mammoths. We kind of think it more of it as like bison or buffalo.
When you think of the Indians in the plains of that region,
The basic instruments of hunting that were used in those giant, massive beasts that were a part of the Southwest and a part of the
North America is that in that history.
the things were, it's such a vast area and different things. And if we look back in our own history, as we've moved across from the east, from the Atlantic to the Pacific,
As Americans, as people in the United States,
the things that have been intertwined and mixed up, whether it be in the mountains or down in the valleys or down in the, in the plains and different things that go on, is so much a part of who we are and how we
have developed as people, and
it's pretty remarkable stuff. There's lots of things going on, lots of things doing. We think, oh, well, this is so and so, and we look to Scripture, and we see in the Scriptures, we see how
that's the same thing.
Samson and the Israelites, they were at war. They were at war in Gaza, which is like if you'd have to be under a bushel or under a rock somewhere if you hadn't seen the news. Ancient, people that have gotten crossways with each other over generations and different things. So to have Christ come along in the thread of history, so it's good to know all of that past information to be able to understand better what's going on today and what we can look forward to in the future. There's
Christ should
these people are turning the world upside down. It's like hopefully we are not being quiet and calm in our approach to our faith. We're being able to share that, and we're able to turn things around. Someone in jail or whatever is they. I really messed up. I really did bad, and they try to prove to you. I have a Bible, and I've been reading every day. Are you doing all of those things? And then going before the going before the district committee, it was one of those things that had listed on there. There was fasting, prayer, all of the acts of mercy and grace that come from doing those things that open up your heart and your mind to see what God has in store for you.
And hopefully this is a thing
go through as we go through scriptures. We have done an amazing amount of time together, and I appreciate you for that so much, because it makes me open up
this Bible every day.
To teach in that way, but it also opens up the my heart and my mind to hear things. Yesterday's scripture was a little bit odd. It was one of those things that how we had gone about trying to see. Chapter 17 was the idolatry and some different things. Kind of a weird next story kind of thing, and it's like it's more than a story. It's an event that gives us an example and a witness of how not to act sometimes, and really to be able to do what we are supposed to do and how we are supposed to look at things and have a different lens and a way of doing all of that as well. Our readings today is 2 and 3 from the hymnal. It's in 1821, and it refers to Psalm 72 in the Old Testament, of course. And then the music is Gezenbuch der HWK
Hofkapelle, and I've seen it. That's 17.
So that's 40, 50 years. The music is 50 years older than the actual words. And then it's adapted and the harmony by W.H. Monk in 1868. That know music and can read and can hear those octaves and all of that. I do well to hear what you're saying to me, and I tend to remember,
That type of thing. But it amazes me how you start singing
other ones. People just kind of like join in, and I was heard someone told me a long time ago. We were talking about holidays, talking about Christmas.
carols
And the chorus or whatever, but it's like we only know the first one, and then after that we have to read and then a lot of times like Christmas Eve and different evening services, like me that have trouble with their eyesight and stuff. Feel like I'm crooked. Sorry about that. But it's like, and then you turn the lights down, it makes it easier to see. That's kind of funny if you think about it. I've always amazed and been amazed. I went at a military base. I saw the everything.
Obviously, that's my dad, Scat.
She's got that kind of like that little the high pitch bark. I guess somebody drove by or was walking by outside. So uh, she's a trip.
I have 3 daughters,
Sometimes they get off on a tangent and make it very hard to reel them in and everything like that. The Scout's 5 years old, and her litter mate,
Daddy,
they're pretty good company. They're something else. They got a lot of personality and very different. And then I have my older dog. I've had her. My kids rescued her from the puppies were free puppies, is what it said on the little sign, handwritten sign. And then at the hardware store in Russellville, our dog,
who had decrepit sheep,
a couple months later, they brought me this little dog that I could hold in my hands, who now weighs 65 pounds. But I just kind of fell in love with her when I first got her and stuff. That was the one that you heard chirping. It's great to be a part of this, as we've read through. Like I said, we've read through the Gospel of the Acts through Revelation, 50 of the Psalms we've read and shared online, and then to be here now in the Book of Judges, which is the 6th book of the Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Judges. This is the 7th book. So Judges, and then in a couple days, the beginning of next week, we'll do the Book of Ruth. Again, I'm so glad to have you with me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But like I said, hail to the Lord's Judges this morning, or this afternoon. And again, I want to thank you for being here. I want you to know that you're in my prayers. I ask for and invite your prayers for me as well. Sorry about all the clutter behind me. Squared away. I have the roll top desk behind me, and I have what's called a lawyer's desk in front of me. I have a 30-inch screen, so it makes it kind of nice, and the camera. And I think it does an excellent job. Between classes and meetings and different stuff like that. So we got the upcoming special called conference.
Meeting will be at 4 o'clock,
As well as Facebook. Excuse me. And you're invited to come and participate. That the ones that get the messages and stuff are the ones that will vote.
and we will decide churches that participation.
That's all that meeting, entire meeting is about, those churches that are making those choices and going through that process. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings on this day as we come
into your presence. We ask that you open our hearts and minds
to learn and understand your word, and that we might be able to discern it in a way that we can share it with others, so that they too might be a part of the kingdom, to know you more intimately, to know the love of Christ in the world. To be touched by the power of the Spirit, that knowing that you are the great physician, we ask for your touch, your healing touch, that we would heal and we would recover 100% and then some. Help us to be able to know what is a good decision, what is the kind of decisions that help others to know you better, to know that they are loved and they are part of this kingdom of God that is desperate for your peace and for your understanding of us, that we might be able to understand one another, whether it's a place of war like in Ukraine or in the Gaza area there of Israel. Destruction, and to see the pictures and the horrifying death and destruction is just almost too much. But we ask that you help us to intervene, help us to be a part of a position of peace, not of power, not of trying to push someone into something that we believe or something that we do, but something that they know and they would experience you as the personal Savior. Ask for you to be with us as we go about the business of being your people, as we go about the daily business of doing work, of doing school, of doing those types of things, that we interact and that we reach out to one another. We ask that you help us to be able to do to our neighbor, or to be and to help our neighbor in a way that we would desire to be approached and to be able to be helped.
We ask for your blessing upon our country.
Knowing that the need for water in the Mississippi, we ask that you give us upstream, upriver, that you give us that soaking rain that would be able to make it as they work hard in the fields to make and provide for us to have a meal from the farm to the table. We ask for your blessing upon our church, on our denomination, as well as God's church wherever it is. Lift up our praise of you and our worship of you for being our God, and so thankful that you are. Bless us and keep us. We ask and do all of these things in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Hail to the Lord's anointed, great David's greater son. Hail in the time appointed, his reign on earth begun.
He goes to break the
to take away transgression and rule in equity. He comes with succor speedy to those suffer wrong, to help the poor and needy, sighing, their darkness turned to light, whose souls condemned and dying are the precious in his sight. He shall come down like showers upon the fruitful earth, spring in his path to birth. Before him on the mountains shall peace the herald go, and righteousness in fountains from hill to valley flow. Descend. His kingdom still increasing, a kingdom without within. The tide of time shall never his covenant remove.
His reign shall stand forever, and
Hail to the Lord's anointed, great David's greater son. Hail in the time appointed, his reign on earth begun. He comes to break oppression,
and to set the captive free, take away transgression,
equity. To him shall prayer unceasing and daily vows ascend. His kingdom still increasing, a kingdom without end.
the tide of time shall never
His name shall stand forever. The name to us is love. Amen.
I'm amazed at some of the names
And being that they're 250, 300 years old, and everything is just that much more amazing that time continues as the story of
the gospel story.
the fall of man and the promise of a redeemer that would be the Son of God, and then the whole story along until at the very end when God comes together.
Jesus comes together, God's church.
Everything leading up to the cross and everything from the cross leading to eternal life. So you have those steps, as we go about this adventure that God has given us. And in those days, the tribe of the Danites was seeking for itself a territory to live in. For until then, no territory among the tribes of Israel had been allotted to them.
So the Danites sent bad men
From the whole number of their clan, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to explore it. And they said to them, go explore the land.
when they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah.
They stayed there. While they were at Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they went over and asked him, who brought you here?
What are you doing in this place? What is your business here? He said to them,
Micah did such and such for me, and he hired me, and I have become his priest. Then they said to him, inquire of God, that we may know
whether the mission we are undertaking will succeed. The priest replied,
go in peace. The mission you are on is under the eye of the Lord. The 5 men went on, and when they came to Laish,
they observed the people who were living securely after the manner of the Sidonians,
quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing on earth, and possessing wealth. Furthermore, they were far from the Sidonians, and had no
dealings with Aaron. And they came to the kinsfolk of Zorah and Eshtaol,
and said to them, what do you report? They said, come, let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and it is very good. Will you do nothing?
do not be slow to go, but continue and possess the land.
When you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is broad. God has indeed given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything on earth.
600 men were prepared to come
Armed with weapons of war, set out from Zoar and Eshtaol, and went up and encamped at Kirath Jearim in Judah.
in. On this account, that place is called
Mahaneh-dan, so to this day, Manhaneh-dan, to this day. It is west of Kirath Jearim. Came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land, that is, Laish, said to their comrades, do you know that in these buildings there an ephod, teraphim, and an idol of cast metal. Now therefore consider that you will do. So they turned in that direction and came to the house of the young Levite
at the house of Micah and Gideon. They had 600
men of the Danites armed with their weapons of war stood by the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had gone to spy out the land proceeded to enter and take the idol of cast metal,
the ephod,
The priest was standing by the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. When the men went into Micah's house and took the idol of cast metal, the ephod,
and the teraphim, the priest said to them,
they said to him, "Keep quiet, put your hand over your mouth, and come with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be a priest to the house of
one person, or to be priest to the tribe of Canaan and Israel?"
The priest accepted the offer. He took the ephod, and teraphim, and the idol, and went along with the people.
So they resumed their journey from the livestock and the beasts of burden.
When they were some distance from the home of Micah, the men who were in the houses near Micah's house were called out, and they overtook the Danites. They shouted to the Danites,
Who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter?"
"That you come with such a company," he replied. "You take my gods that I made, and the priest, and go away, and what have I left? How then can you ask me, what is the matter?"
And the Danites said to him, "You have done that your grace before us."
Or else hot-tempered fellows will attack you, and you will lose your life and the lives of your household. Then the Danites went their way. When Micah saw that they were too strong for him,
he turned and went back to his home.
The Danites, having taken what Micah had made, and the priest who belonged to him, came to Laish, to the people quiet and unsuspecting.
Put them to the sword and bring down the city. There was no deliverer,
because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with Aram. It was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob. They rebuilt the city and lived in it.
They named the city Dan after the ancestor David, who was married to Israel.
But the name of the city was formerly Laish. Then the Danites set up the idol for themselves. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests
to the tribe of the Danites, until the time the land went into captivity.
So they maintained as their own Micah's idol that he had made, as long as the house of God was at Shiloh. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
I think it's funny that Micah and everything, there's no mention of the priest's name and different things, but he was recognized
by the Danites, and then
that they worshipped in the idol and all of those things at Shiloh, and that is in the northern kingdom. That's a part of what would have been Israel at the time, as opposed to the kingdom of Judah, which was Benjamin and the tribe of Judah. But the kingdom of Judah, I guess you would call it, Israel fell first. The 10 tribes to the north fall later on to the Assyrians, I believe, first,
and then
and they took both the north and the southern kingdom, and the battles of Nebuchadnezzar comes to fame at the battle with
king of Pharaohs at that time.
after Judah had fallen, and it was a part of all of that, the battles that were going on there. So, but it's kind of interesting to me because yesterday I wasn't really sure exactly what was going on. Right? Idols, ephod. I think it's ephod is how that's pronounced, and then teraphim. We were just talked about that yesterday, was the fact that
Terrapin is this man has bananas.
back when I'm thinking Jacob, when he had left Laban, and get my women mixed up.
The two wives of Rachel had stolen her
Brothers. I don't know if his brother or father. My mind's going kind of wishy-washy on me. But anyway, had stolen them, and then he chased after him. I think Laban. I don't know if that was now my mind is going to be running about that. Laban is the father of Rachel and Leah, but Rachel was the one that stole the idols and then was sitting on the camel's. Said that she was having her time of the month and that it was that, but she had hidden the idols underneath her and stuff like that. And Laban accused
Jacob of stealing
them, that they would surely die, or something to that effect. So he put that curse on there, and did not realizing that it was Rachel that had done it. So that's an old story. It amazes me how many different things are worshipped. Scout, and how they go about the idea of I guess just traditions. I know that I've read the stories. I guess I should say I don't know, but I've read the stories of like traveling ministers and like revival, and there were people that have come to that community from other places. Some of it's organic. Some of the people that rise to a place of authority as far as faith goes, or come from the places where they are. But there was truth in what Jesus said about the fact that your hometown, they know us. They know, sowed our wild oats or whatever it might be, and the different things, and we have that past that sometimes can be a block to us being able to, I don't know,
be able to lead
out of state and served in those churches. It's like there's certain things that they think about, like that a preacher or a priest or whatever it might be. There's like this image of what it is to be a preacher. When we think of a preacher, we think it's kind of different. Priest and preacher are kind of intertwined, but the idea that sometimes when we think of robes and stuff, and then there's that kind of image. And then if we think of a Protestant preacher, whether it be a Baptist or Pentecostal or whatever,
suit and tie.
Somebody, we're a little more casual now maybe than we used to be, but I still like to wear the suit. I still like to wear the collar. I still like, being a part of that. There's something about that symbolism.
I think that's what
symbolism of being that you come from a Levite family, which means that you are a priestly family from way back. You have a little bit different authority. You may not be as old or mature. I know of lots of ministers that are like third and fourth generation of preachers, and but then again, there's kind of passes from one generation to the next, and then all of a sudden there's this young preacher out there, this young rabbi comes along. The priests and the ones that were in the temple and the ones that who was spirit and holy anointed and coming and preaching and teaching the Word of God in a different style and look different. He wasn't
the person of God.
When we think about the Sanhedrin and we think about the different things, and so it's kind of interesting that this is building up to something and everything, and it's like the
Levites,
we're starting to recognize that just because you're religious doesn't mean that you are saved, and I think that's even true today for sure.
Is the same truth as
church person and everything. Scout, come here, hey. But the whole thing is it's amazing to see.
Because sometimes what looks like church is not church.
Friendship and fellowship and worship has different meaning to different folks, and it has different to different groups. I think it's amazing to me
how many people
and there are some oddities. There are some outlying people. There are some people that are just straight and narrow. They don't do any of the bad things that are out there in the world.
And then with the New Testament,
one of those things. The woman, she's an evangelist and kind of an independent denomination kind of thing. And but it's like her word of what she had experienced and how terrible things had been. Sometimes I think it's kind of the story of the prodigal son. We kind of think and tend to think of ourselves as the prodigal son, the one that went off and acted up and different things like that. Anyway, I've gone to church. I've been involved with the youth. I've served on committees. I've done da-da-da-da. I've done everything that God has asked me to do.
And to support me and to do all those things.
And all of a sudden they're like in charge and they're telling me what to do, and they're and people are saying, oh, look how wonderful so and so, they stepped up and they did something and
they did that one time thing or that one time.
Since I was very young, since I'm always here. I come to church all the time. This person comes once a year and everybody just, oh, they just love them. They're just so wonderful. It just makes it difficult. It makes it, to be able to sit back and to let ministry take its place and to do the things that it needs to do. Joseph of Arimathea or even Caiaphas even made this, it should be better that one should suffer and then that all, but then to just let it's like if this thing is of God, it will increase, it will become something great. If it is not, it will just fade away. It'll be just and
I believe ministry looks like that.
Part of it's bound to be successful. It's like the litmus test of the ancients was that if you are a prophet and you do prophecy and you tell a prophetic and give a prophetic message, it's not. The weird part of that is that if it doesn't happen, it wasn't true and it wasn't of God. But the thing, it doesn't work the opposite way. Message could come from a bad source. It could be like different ones. Even talking about Nebuchadnezzar, he was blessed to punish the people of Israel.
And then,
I'm trying to think how you would say it. It came to tuition because God had told that it would, but it was like, I'm trying to think of an example that I could use for profess it and it comes true, it's of God. But if it's something that is professed and doesn't come true, or I'm sorry, if it comes from a bad source and it is prophetic, it's like God can deal with that as well. So it doesn't prove.
It proves if it's true, but it doesn't prove it's false.
I think that makes sense. It's like the fact is if God's word and God's things of God, they prove out to be true no matter what. I mean, there's just no exception to that. But things that are not necessarily can be both. Like there's things that are, I don't know how you say it, but it's the randomness of life that's so crazy to me. Like you have that. Terrible preacher, prophet, whatever, and they can give a word and something can be delivered through them. I guess is how I would say it. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I frustrated myself. Like say baptism. The fact is that when a baby or when a person is baptized,
That baptism is a grace from God.
if the preacher or the priest or the congregation, it's not their faith, it's not their doing, it's God's doing, despite
The fact that they may not
when like it's like your wedding. If you have a wedding officiated, as long as the credentials are there or the way that it's accepted that is there,
it doesn't matter if the priest
they're just not priestly or they're not good in that nature, but it doesn't taint your baptism or your communion or your faith or your relationship or tainted, but the actual gift and grace from God cannot be. And I think that's kind of how this is operating, like in the fact that they made the idol, they had the
idols, they had different things.
faith, and they weren't they had no value whatsoever. But the people focused in on those different things, and that's where we get into trouble because we focus in on man, he does a great job, and he just he's on fire and this and that, but we still have 15 people in church. And it's like, and what did your church do other than just come in and
Sing and worship and entertain themselves.
so that's beyond to think that a lucky charm or doing certain ways or a process or whatever that might be is how it works. It's not. I hope that's kind of makes sense. It wasn't that this idol means anything. Shiloh was selected as a place of worship in the northern kingdom.
There's some civil
The Jews were actually people that had been taken off. They had been in exile. They returned. They were still considered to be pure Jewish and all that type of thing when they came back. They're the ones that were in the king's court. They were the ones that were wealthy and did well. And then the poor folks that were left behind were the ones that were the elderly. They were the community. So they were not the elite or the chosen ones and stuff. But these were hardworking people. These were the regular folks. So it was like they took the white collar folks, took them all. And they were wealthy and had established things, and there were some that stayed that refused to come back, and then the ones that did come back, all of a sudden there's these heathens that are there.
And it's like it makes just a circle of just craziness
That comes about. The Canaanites and the Israelites, who kind of extends into the idea of the Philistines and the Israelites against each other in Canaan, in that territory. Now you have the two brothers and their descendants. So you have the kings and the wild folks that were the part of the Middle East, and then you have this other group that's also and and we have all of that. Micah, apparently, he was Jewish. But he just didn't worship God in the way that. But he was wealthy. Kind of bought his church, and then it's all of a sudden here come these Danites who are looking for a place to stay and live, and they just took what they wanted and they just moved right on through. Some people think that they're better than other people, and some people think that they've done more and they deserve more, and this kind of thing like that. And God can just become one of we are, what we have, so that it's for the building of the kingdom, to make it where those that don't have food, those don't have shelter, those don't have those kind of things. Well,
I pretty much have gone all over the place.
I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being a part of our ministry and part of our church. So I'd like to conclude. This is chapter 18. Tomorrow we'll do 19 and end up this week.
And then this will have
20, 21. So we have 21 chapters. So we'll have 19, 20, and 21 of Judges, and then we'll do the chapters of this outreach. And I hope that you have a great, as we approach and get ready for the weekend, that we have a good weekend.
the Blues Festival
And everything. So I want to pray for our youth on Wednesday nights, that would grow and become a great part of our outreach to our community and our let's pray for our special called conference of the annual conference that is this Sunday. Pray for our preacher that's going to be here with us this Sunday at Marvel.
and special music.
We're looking forward to hearing him speak and to be a part of that worship service Sunday morning. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together as we gather to talk about your word. Help us to be a part of a community that extends well beyond our doors, beyond our lawns, and beyond our community out into the world.
We pray for safety and peace
By the fact that the destruction and devastating loss of life is just something that is unnecessary. It's not
about any true belief.
Usurp power, and we understand and we see that, and we know that that's a lot of human nature. But we ask that image of God that is within each and every one of us would come to the surface.
They can come together.
We may live differently, that we are all part of a worldwide kingdom that is universal in nature, that is about loving and worshiping
You and also
throughout the world, in places like Ukraine, which are at the top of the list at this point in time in history. But we know that there's unfortunate violence and different things that go on.
in our local communities.
Give all of that to you, knowing that you are bigger than any problem that we have. We ask for your blessing upon the reading of your word, and we thank you that you would help us to discern it and learn it in a way that we are able to share it with those who are lost and those who are in need. We ask for your blessing upon those who suffer injury or illness, that they would be healed and feel the touch of the great physician, who is the one who sacrificed himself for us, that we might have eternal life. And we know that by the power of God, he is the would be with us, as you would heal us miraculously, heal us in time, providing medicine, providing procedures, providing all of that, so that we might live and live more abundantly.
to be your disciples. Bless this time today as we
Of your word, and we ask all of these things and do all of these things in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.